Testing, testing.
Getting double. Yeah, I see that. Good evening. I'd like to open up the Village Council regular meeting, October 10th, 2023. I show the time at 6:02 in the evening, and I show we have a full quorum. So that said, we don't need to allow people to participate remotely. We need an adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, the only question I had, will there be time to talk about the road name change and stuff? in
I've got
open
it.
topics?
I've got it in roads.
Okay. All right. That said, any other changes? Are we hiding behind our computer?
Yes, we are.
All right. I'll need a motion to approve agenda
I
as.
just gave it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up. Bless him. All right. We have adoption of the previous minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Post-meeting minutes.
Nope, no changes for me.
Anyone else? All right. Need a motion to pass?
Make a motion to approve
Approve.
the previous minutes from September 28th work session as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, Pledge of Allegiance. All right, public comment period. Do we have anyone signed up? Austin? Anyone signed up? I believe we do.
Surprised he knew it was coming.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
I know,
for
he's
him,
like,
wasn't
wait,
it?
what?
Can you go make me one?
No one has signed up to
No one
speak.
has signed up, okay. Next up, we have presentations. First one is consider adoption of resolution of Village Council of Village of Marvin, North Carolina, making certain statements of fact concerning proposed bond issue and authorizing application to the Local Government Commission.
So as you know, we're getting ready to officially apply to the LGC, turn in our application to get approval to go for the GO bond on the spring ballot. So these are just two resolutions that we are required to have you all adopt and that we're required to have as part of the application process. But I'm going to let Christina elaborate because I think there might be some changes to some things that might affect these resolutions.
So the only thing that will change is, the dollar amounts. You all had inquired about additional funds for the park, potentially adding a little bit on to the park funds. We have left that door open if y'all do want to make some amendments to the resolution to include a certain dollar amount for additional park funds.
Would that be just for purchase of the park or of maybe if a park was presented and we were able to add things to it?
So the way, and Andy Walsh is online here, he can elaborate a little bit more in detail about the resolutions and how they're written, but we did structure the resolution to include land acquisition of park space, if council so desires. Andy, I don't know if you want to elaborate more as to what that means, but now would be the time and place, and the only time and place to increase that amount for additional parkland. And we also have Chazo here with First Tryon to pull up the financial model so that you all can see what implications from a tax standpoint would occur if you were to increase that total bond amount to see the tax impact as well. So Andy, do you have anything to add to that?
Hey everyone, thanks Christina. Andy Walsh at Parker Poe, your bond counsel. Nothing particularly to add to what Christina said. The language before you for both questions really is drawn from the general statutes. You know, one of the nice things is it provides flexibility if a project were to change. You know, there's a little bit of flexibility in that language to, you know, allow you to do some different things. With regards to the total amount that's used, you can certainly, you know, if you were to proceed going to the bond orders further on into the calendar and you wanted to use less amount from what you're proposing in the public hearing, you can certainly reduce the amount. It's a little bit more challenging. You'd probably have to start over the process once you get to the bond order introduction stage if you want to increase the amount that you need. So we certainly recommend you know, building in that extra flexibility for yourselves at this stage if needed.
But, I mean, how flexible can this be with this money? I mean, as far as, if we put it aside for parks and, what is it exactly? Is the labeling on it, Parks and Rec?
So the way that the bond referendum, the bond orders will be read is, the way that it's structured right now is $3.7 million of bonds to fund, to provide funds for capital costs of acquiring, constructing, improving parks and recreation facilities, including the acquisition of land for current and future parks and recreation uses. So that's what the money could be used for. However, keep in mind that we are structuring our educational pieces for particular things that you all have decided that you potentially may want to do, which is this amphitheater park, multi-use park, whatever we're going to do over here. So tonight, in just a couple minutes, you're actually going to hear from Jared, who has the GEO bond frequently asked questions. So we can structure that language to be a little more generic. But now is the time and place where if we want to get specific, we get specific. If we don't want to be specific, we want to be a little bit more generic, then we make sure that's what we're communicating to the public so that they understand what they're voting for. So as long as, from a bond standpoint, as long as what you are planning to do includes what I just read, any of that, then legally you're sound as far as that's concerned. But what the message is that we're conveying to the public is that we're using at least this 3.7 to pay for what's included in the proposal that we had seen over here in the Village Hall Master Plan.
So, maybe this is a question for Chaplain, but let's say that we were to come into some land and we wanted to make improvements on that land that related to a park or fields and stuff like that. Would that be something we could use those funds, improvement on the land?
Yes,
Not
you can ask me or the bond counsel, but it's very broad language because it includes the acquisition and improvement. So it's written to give you flexibility with that, but also, as Christina indicated, you're going to have flyers and educational materials out there indicating to the public where you intend to gear that towards. So you got to try to stay with that, but you will have flexibility with both the acquisition and improvement as written in the resolution, and that will also be a public notice.
So whatever we decide to do today with the dollar amount, that is going to be the dollar amount that we are advertising.
Correct.
It doesn't necessarily mean, if it gets approved, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the full amount that we have to take.
Correct.
Okay, so if we feel like there may be other opportunities for park space, for some improvements, maybe some recreation type facilities, then we would probably want to include that in our education piece so that the public would know that that's where we're intending to put some of that money.
Correct.
But the problem is, if we don't know what we don't know as far as funding it, this is what they're saying is if those fundings were kind of for that amphitheater or wherever we're talking about here, then anything else would be increasing what we're proposing.
Well, not necessarily.
No,
We could
you're
use.
You're just squeezing the balloon.
Yeah.
You're just,
So
We
The
can always add funds.
3.75, if we wanted to, we could put it all at the amphitheater site, the Village Hall site. If we wanted to leave it at 3.75 and another opportunity comes about that we might want to utilize some of that money for, we could use some for the amphitheater and some for another opportunity. But I think the point is, we may want to add to it if we feel like there may be an opportunity. And then as we are doing that, let Granite Sky know so that they can update the education piece.
Exactly.
And Granite Sky is going to be coming shortly after these two items.
Right.
So we can kind of mold that language as needed when that time comes. Chazo's working real quick to add, I just told him to add 3 million, just so y'all can see what the numbers look like. I don't even know if that's the number y'all are thinking about, but can he share that? Can he share this?
I mean, I just, I think that. Yeah, okay. I mean, I feel like we have been diligently, this council's been diligently working on trying to find additional open space. It's always been one of our goals to have park space. And in our land use plan, there's a certain percentage of open space and land that we would like to have for the village. I think we're working on trying to assess some opportunities that may be beneficial. And this would be a good time and a good way to fund said opportunities.
And again, if we don't use it.
Then we don't have to take it. I'm not sure that 3 million, show me what I'm looking at.
Also, while he's pulling this up, I do want to mention, in this model, a lot of things that we did was put in some assumptions too, based on operational costs. We did not, with anything that may increase in terms of operations for parks, we did not include that here. So I'm not sure how that will work, when whatever is identified is identified. But just keep in mind that this may not be the full picture in terms of
The
tax
cost.
implication. Yeah.
So what did you put in? 3 million?
Yes, so in this Parks and Recreation Fund section, just to reorient you, the original 3.75 million was estimated to be about 2.75 cents on the tax rate. Assuming that we do an additional $3 million, and that also comes at the same time as the original 3.75. So all in, Parks and Rec would be 6.75 million coming online at once. That 2.75 cents would go up about 1.75 to 4.5 total. You could step it down over time if you chose to as the debt service rolls off, but that would be the incremental impact if we put $3 million at the same time as the amphitheater project.
So for fun, can you show me $1 million?
Yep. So that would be incrementally roughly 1.25 cents.
So it was 2.25, so it's going up 0.75. So that's the total amount now. 3 cent is the total instead of 2.25.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the all-in impact of just the Parks and Rec portion.
I mean, I feel like we've got some good opportunities that could be out there. And I feel like this is a good way to fund it and have it. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Just in case. No, I agree. I think it's fair to say that some things are coming, we're discussing things that look appealing, and it's just not far enough along to get to it anymore. But if it does go in the direction we hope it does, we're definitely going to need funding for that. So you're suggesting another $1 million just for?
I mean,
Instead of 3 million, obviously. additional 3. And that takes it to 3 cents. Is that what I'm reading?
Yep.
Versus 2.25.
So now it's 4.75 on total parks. What if we just rounded it up to a nice round 5 million? Make it look pretty. What do we got?
1 point, oh, from the original?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at 3.75, so now we're adding 1.25. So 3.25. And what was 3 million, 4.5?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I'd rather have more and not use it than have less, but, I mean, it all depends on how the public views it, and I think we'll get a good response because we're presenting it during the primaries, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So,
What does everybody want to add some money?
Wayne, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't think that's the right question. I think, do we want the park space?
Right.
And then that says if we
Okay.
want that, then we have to have the money.
Okay, so do we want the park space?
Well, here's the thing,
That's
you're
right.
gonna answer it, you're gonna answer it if you go with the 3.75. You're saying throw it out. There's not even an option for it,
Right.
basically. And here's the thing, if you get it, you don't have to use it. And I would, on the educational piece, you remind the public that what will go along with that is we would be working with the federal and state government to help us, because it's a, because it is a park, to find extra funds to come in for it, that, even if we do get it, maybe we don't have to still use all of it.
Right.
It's just having access to it. And listen, if something falls through, then you take that other 1.25 million and you don't cash that check.
So, it's my understanding, the fundings are always there up until the time that we have to make a decision, fish or cut bait, right? It's like, it's there up until a certain amount, and when is that day? 5 years out, I read?
It's 7 years from the referendum date, with the possibility to ask the LGC for an additional 3-year extension. Not necessarily guaranteed, but they almost always will give you that approval. So you have up
Between 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years, guaranteed 7 years, possibly an additional 3 years to touch those funds.
Let's just assume that the potential of some of the things that's been kind of thrown around was zero. None of that was there. I think it would be incumbent upon us to still add that in there in the event that something might come up. And if it doesn't, again,
We don't have to take
you're shutting the door, if you just say the 3.75, you're shutting the door on any possibility. And by doing the additional 1.25, at least you have that option on the table.
This is a smaller version of what I asked for years ago with multiple municipalities to create a bond fund that we could tap into, and we could compete with the developers instead of just building homes. You come in there and say, no, we're gonna buy that piece of land and create a park versus just more homes or any of that, but that never took wings. This is just a smaller version. We have it if we need it, is what you're saying. And the sunset clause on it is 20 years?
What's the bond term? 20 years?
The max term we could go is 20. You don't have to amortize it over 20 years, but that's the max that the local government commission will let you amortize your principal for.
Christina would prefer 20 and not 15 because she's stressed out about that.
The thing about it is, we want it. The people in the community, we keep getting people ask us, why don't you have more park space?
And we tell them because we have a 6-cent tax rate.
Yep.
It's pretty
Well-
simple.
I mean,
If we don't ask for it and we want the park space, if something comes up, we want to be able to act upon it, right?
Yep.
I think
that's why I would be in favor of doing the additional 1.25. Because again, as I think this council have always said, we can't look at today, we have to look at 10 and 15 years down the road. And if we're not looking at 10 years down the road, then shame on us. Because those opportunities will go to someone else, or those opportunities will go pass us by, and then we have people in the future can look back at this council and go, well, it was their fault.
So is there anybody opposed to doing 5 million on the parks?
And
I mean, because
no,
I
but-
think everybody
and you
pretty
gotta
much is in
remember, you
agreement.
gotta remember too, that there's an educational piece of this. So when we present this, it's up to them. It's not up to this council to decide
Right,
whether
no, I'm
they do
just
that or
saying,
not.
'cause-
So, you,
Because it sounds like everybody's pretty much on the same page, and that's why I just asked that question. So, I mean, yes, it's ultimately up to the public. The only line that I want to draw here is that I don't want to try to go too much and turn the public off. I don't want to go too little and not have enough to fund what we feel like we're going to be able to do. So I think that at that 5 million, from my own personal standpoint, I think we're at that line without tipping it one way or the other. So, I mean, I would agree that the $5 million mark would be probably the appropriate mark.
I would agree as well.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So,
All right,
for a
so we're
straw
gonna-
poll,
Well, we just all agreed, everybody saw that. We don't need to vote for that, do you?
You will when you.
When we approve the
Approve the
resolution.
motion, yeah,
Yeah.
just with that one change.
Okay, all right.
I did go ahead and update the document in your records, so it might not be on your iPad yet, but it's already done and printed,
Okay.
ready to go.
All right, so does anybody have any questions about the resolution that we need to go over? Christina, you're good with it?
Yes, you changed the resolutions, both of them.
I've already changed, I have to change the next one in a minute. I do
Okay.
one at a time.
So then, just to reiterate, we have the Village Hall Park at 3.75, and then we just have future anticipated parks and recreation needs, because First Tryon's going to need to know how to segment that out for the LGC application for a total of, what would that second project be? 1.25.
Can we just be very general and just say $5 million for acquiring, constructing, improving parks, recreation facilities?
They, in the LGC application, they even have to break down the 3.7 even more in detail as to
Okay.
engineering, construction, all that stuff.
So let's say that we only use 2 million for the amphitheater space, and we have the other money that we want to use for another space, can we still do that? So why does it matter how you break it down?
Well, let me ask you this. When is that report due for the LGC?
I'm sorry?
When's the report due for the LGC, if you're going to break it down to them?
That's what you're making the resolution right now for them to prepare the application, which they are working on as we speak. They have about 75% of it complete.
So
and they're
now.
working- Yeah.
So now,
So
okay,
now. The answer's now,
okay.
so we can't.
Because I could have.
Yeah, okay, all right, so, okay, that's fine, just 1.25 for additional recreation facilities at a site to be determined. Including acquisition, including improvements, engineering, I mean,
We'll work it out. We'll make something generic. But that would be a project of 1.25 for a total park bond of $5 million, which gives a tax implication of 3.25 cent.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And everybody's good with that?
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to adopt the resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Marvin, North Carolina, making certain statements of fact concerning proposed bond issue, and authorizing the application to the Local Government Commission as amended.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on. Next up, we have consider adoption of resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Marvin, North Carolina, directing the publication of notice of intention to apply to the Local Government Commission for approval of bonds.
This is just to publish it, right? What we just talked about?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and you probably ought to say as amended to the
I
5
will.
million, because that hadn't
So I'm
been
going to make
discussed.
a motion to adopt the resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Marvin, North Carolina, directing the publication of notice of intention to apply to the Local Government Commission for approval of bonds as amended.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. I was hoping I'd get all ayes, because that would scare me if we didn't there. Next up, presentation of Granite Sky Creative Group on Geo Bond Marketing Logo, frequently asked questions, draft, and flyer information.
Thanks, Jazzo.
Logo.
What are we not doing?
So we have Jared here from Granite Sky. I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to him to walk you through this.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and Council. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So Austin had provided you guys a couple of different items in your packet. And the first one that I wanted to go through was the actual conceptual for the education campaign.
Hey, Jared, let me
yes.
just stop you real quick, because I'm going to let Chazzo stay, just in case there's some specific questions on the questions and the language itself. Could we get to that part first and do the logos second, if you don't mind?
Yes, most definitely. So the FAQ document is probably got a lot of the details in it. Obviously, with the changes that you guys were just talking about, this won't be updated for that. But we have some general information here about just explaining what a GeoBond is. And then we have some comparatives to other localities in Union County, what their tax rates are. That usually is one of the main things that comes up as well. And then we have kind of a write-out of what are the tax implications of the bonds. So when we get into here, so we're going into specifics. So the way that we were trying to break this down as is in fiscal year 26, that this would be the implication for the first portion of the transportation bond. And to give an example of that, and then in addition to that, with the Parks and Rec bond, here's what the implication of that would be. And then we broke it separately down into the second phase of the transportation bond to have an updated tax increase that would not be effective until 2028 with the fiscal year 29. So we try to break this down as simple as possible, and but it is a lot. So I don't know with one thing I wanted to mention was when you guys were talking about stair-stepping the bonds down and stuff, that's something to consider, you know, if you want to go that route, or if you just want to have you know, more even amount throughout the term of the bond. I don't know what the bank will allow, but from the education side of things, it can make things a little bit easier to understand. So
One of the reasons y'all had kind of initially decided not to do the stair step down is to kind of absorb some of those operational costs as they come around. So I'm not really sure if y'all want to go down that realm, because you'll have to go back to the model and kind of play with some things and make some assumptions. So
I would rather leave it the way that we have it, and if we decide to do that in the future, we can always do it, but I would rather keep it where we're going to keep it pretty consistent over an amount of time in order to have some of those operational costs.
Makes sense.
So, was there any questions? I mean, if you guys have had a chance to read through this, was there any concerns or questions that came out about this? Because this is probably the biggest bulk of it.
I thought it was very well worded. I thought it was very well put together and presented. There's a lot of information, as you said, packed into a couple of pages. The only thing that I didn't see in here that I think would be of interest is any kind of, and I don't know, just asking about the sunset clause. On the tax rate.
Right.
You're meaning making the assumption that in 20 years, that tax implication goes away?
Right.
We would say no more than 20 years, because that's not, can that be decided later, how it's scheduled out, 20 years, 15, 10? That can always be changed?
Yes, when you go to issue the bonds, that's when you can decide your term. You'll have up to 20 years to issue, or you'll have the ability to amortize up to 20 years, but with each issuance, you can determine how long you want to amortize it within that 20-year range.
So let's just say that we said, okay, we want it for 20 years, but then we're like 10 years down the road and we're like, we're good, we've spent the money that we're gonna end up spending, we've only used, we've barely used, a third of it. We're ready to pay the rest back. Can we do that?
Yes, so with a debt issuance, typically you'll have the ability to prepay it or refund it after 10 years.
Okay.
So if you have ample reserves, whether that's from the property tax increase or just other reserves, or you come into some lump sum of money, after 10 years, you'd have the ability to start paying off the debt early,
Okay.
whether that be all of it at once or in chunks.
Is that what you're asking, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, is there something in here that just assures the residents that once this GO bond is, once we've kind of used the money, to your point, that the intent, with this council probably won't be in
Office
place.
in 20 years.
Right.
So Jared, I think
Yeah,
just,
are you wanting to make it clear that like at the end of 20 years, the tax rate would essentially drop back to 6 cents?
yeah, I think if you just add one question that says what happens if we don't use the total anticipated amounts or within 20 years, I think you can answer both of the questions that they have in one question. You have to wordsmith that a little bit.
Two separate questions, though. You might as well address them separately.
And you don't want to necessarily make the assumption that at some point over the next 20 years, a council isn't going to just raise the base tax rate in addition to whatever the GO bond rate is.
Well, that's for other councils on other issues. This is on the bond, which is what we're focusing
I
on.
know, but that's what,
But
Well, you
Can't
just
say it's
use
gonna go
words
back
like
to 6
could.
cents.
Correct.
We're gonna say
That's
it'll go
my
back to the
point.
base
Correct.
tax rate.
let's be fair, it's not going to go back to 6 cents. And the reason it's not going to go back to cents, as soon as you put a shovel to anything, you got to put a budget to it, which that is going to, maybe it drops from the 14, whatever it is, 15-cent tax rate down to 10 cents where it was originally 6 cents.
Yeah, I wouldn't specifically put numbers. I would just say something generically. A future council could decide to lower taxes at a rate that's equivalent to what operations cost or whatever. I would leave it very generic.
The only thing that I saw or didn't see in here, maybe, depending on how you look at it, would like to just make sure that we accentuate the fact that if the project costs are lower than expected, the village would only borrow what would be needed. I see it's printed there, but I want to make sure that the public is very aware of that, because there is a good likelihood that we won't borrow every penny of this, that projects may come in cheaper because we're looking at it, kind of inflated just to make sure that we make sure everything gets covered. But there's a good likelihood that we won't spend it all. So I just want to make sure that the citizens are aware, very aware, that they may have a little bit less of a burden on this than what's presented. Can we do that?
Yes, most definitely. And we have it highlighted a little bit more in your face, I think, when we come to the actual education, like the flyer.
Okay.
But we can make sure that we have it a little bit more highlighted here in the FAQs as well.
Okay.
So do y'all want to add another question about the 20 years?
I don't know how you wordsmith it. It was just something, when I read through it, it just seemed like if I were reading this, I'd be like, okay, well, now my taxes are going to be X forever. But I know that's not the case, and we can't address for something, we
So-
can't assume what it,
As it, maybe specifically, as it relates to the bond referendum, the tax rate will increase X, and then after the decided amount of time to pay it off, somehow wordsmithing it to the council, looking at actual cost of what it would take to maintain whatever it is we're doing, and given the times, we're hoping we're going to be fiscally responsible. There's no reason to be, because I don't think you can be bringing in more than you really need to. That becomes another issue, doesn't it, with municipalities?
It does, but I think we could generically anticipate that we anticipate to pay the bonds, to complete all the projects that we're going to complete within 20 years, pay them off, and then at some point in that 20 years, we will decrease the tax rate. That's the anticipated knowledge at this point in time. So we could go based on what we anticipate as a board, and not really lock anyone else in the future into.
Yeah, I think if there's a way you can wordsmith just what you're saying.
Jared, you think you can work on some general
Yeah,
language?
I think I'd be comfortable as long as we're saying that that's in relation to the 20-year terms of the bond, and referencing it back to that, and not just, hey, in general, we want to lower taxes kind of thing. So yeah, I think we can word something, get something
I
that
believe
will
it's, the tax is attributable to the debt service of the bonds, because those will go away because they'll
Right.
be paid off.
Right.
And that's the debt service, that's what you borrowed. But other things are outside your parameter, because that's going to be a new council.
Is there anything else here that you guys liked, didn't like, that you want to see additions, deletions, any of that?
Can we, the section that says what happens if the bonds don't pass in March 2024, can we just highlight that and make it like, stuff's not gonna get done, your neighborhood roads aren't gonna get paved, it's gonna take a significantly longer to get some of these projects done?
So that was going to be my next thing was, I don't know how you craft it in here again, but this is saying, okay, we're going to do this, but if this doesn't happen, there's still going to be a tax increase because we can't service the roads and we can't do all, you're going to get none of the Greenway stuff, but we still have to service the roads. So there's no, it's not like, all right, if I don't vote for it, then my taxes are going to always be the same. It's going to be 6 cents. But if I vote for it, there's going to be this. We're going to have to do something with the tax rate if this doesn't pass
Yeah, we've got.
in the very near future, because we can't, there's not enough tax rate to cover the roads, and that wasn't this council's decision.
We've got to talk about if by doing the bonds, we're able to do the projects much quicker, and we're able to get the economies of scale by doing it. Like, we've got to highlight that so that people understand. Because to Jamie's point, then they're like, well, then we won't do it, and it'll take longer to do
Yeah,
it.
everything's
What
going
do
to be
I
fine.
care? It'll be
Everything's going to
fine.
maintain status quo.
Yeah.
When in fact, it's not going to maintain status quo.
So if we can highlight that, by doing this, we're able to much quicker rate, economies of scale, the projects will be cheaper in the long run, well, and in the short run, but the projects will be cheaper because we're able to get the economies of scale.
When's the deadline where we annually look at tax rates? What is this?
January.
I thought it was June.
You have to have your
That's our
tax rate
budget.
adopted within your
That's our
budget.
budget.
It's in the budget though, isn't it?
Right.
But
June
January?
30th. June 30th is the last date you can adopt a tax increase.
Okay, so it's June, not January.
Yeah, but we pretty much decided our retreat in January.
Right.
But that's when it would be implemented, would be
So,
July 1.
to Chapman's comment about the service of the debt is X, okay, that was a percentage. That technically all goes away, and any makeup from that point on, that council in place, whenever that tax whenever that funding has been serviced in full, then that current council is gonna have to look at all the costs that they have in maintaining it. Again, putting the shovel to it, puts a budget to it, and it's not necessarily, yes, you may see that go away, but then you may see an increase based on ongoing
Your debt
costs.
service will go away because these are general obligation bonds, and they're backed by your taxing authority. So that will go away, but yes, operational costs will not. You do hope that there'll be an economies of scale as more houses come in and overhead to operate, that the cost won't.
Hopefully not too many more homes.
But someone could look back.
Just for clarity's sake, though, that was the previous question, so were we good with letting Jared come up with, you don't want to add that into this question?
No,
Okay,
different question,
okay, I'm just making sure we're on the same page.
different question.
I mean, it
Sorry,
could be
Jared.
crafted of something that, what is the advantage of having a bond versus going year to year to year and just incurring expenses. You know, to your point that, you know, we're gonna have to raise taxes, but given inflation and everything else, who knows where this is finite. I mean, it's saying, we got a projects, these are the projects in this space of time we want to take care of, this is what it's gonna cost. I don't know if it's something we can grab.
That's a good alternative question too. What happens if the bond doesn't pass?
Yeah,
Or in addition to.
right.
I like that. Good job, Bob. Look at you heavy lifting tonight. Woo.
You all right?
I do think we would have to,
Take a breath.
I do think we would have to check with legal on that as far as explicitly stating increasing taxes otherwise. Because I don't think those
You
can,
don't have to say that, but you can just
Okay.
let people know.
There's a possibility.
No, I don't even need to, I mean, if people can't figure that out, then that's on them. But they need to know why doing a bond is better than doing it year by year by year.
well, we tried to focus this too, like, there's a one-liner, maybe this is how we can state this a little bit more, but I believe it was, but you know, when it talks about why are we doing this versus using cash, and it says, in the last line here, it says, in addition, financing these projects over 20 years allows future residents who also benefit from the projects to contribute towards paying for them. So that's how we try to like explain that in one way of like why you're doing a bond is that you're also basically financing this with people that don't live there yet and that aren't part of your tax base.
Yeah, I mean, I think that too is a very good point. I think as you get into longer paragraphs, people start skimming them and you start missing those really good points, because I've read this thing more than once and I didn't see it, I'll be honest. And that's a really good
Maybe
point.
bullet point them versus
Yeah, we can do that.
But I do think telling people quicker, having the economies of scale, and I do like the fact that you're gonna allow future residents to help pay for those projects over the, over the years. But yeah, I mean, if we
This
can't
is supposed to,
legally
this is
say.
really supposed to be somewhat of a marketing and selling
It is,
document. So let's leave it as a marketing and selling document.
yeah.
And then when we have, because
We're gonna be able to talk about
we're
it.
gonna have open forums to talk about this. And the one thing you gotta say is, you know what? That when you look at the proposal, when you look at all of the flyers that talks about all of this stuff and what the trails and systems and stuff look like, there are many of those that will take 20 years before they actually do get finished.
No,
Huh?
1 year. We're getting it all done the first year.
No, I'm talking about if you don't do it.
Oh, yeah, oh,
I
for
mean,
sure, yes.
you gotta remember, if you're just gonna say, well, okay, we'll get to it now. This didn't pass, so we'll get to it.
Well, the
That's
original
not gonna
plans
happen.
just on roads was over 8 years, 8 to 10 years, I think.
Yep. That's
But we
probably
need to
longer
let, when we start having a forum on this with the public, is to let them know that there's a considerable amount of this that potentially could fall off the tracks, simply because it's gonna take too long.
There'd be different councils in here, different people's inputs, different, all kinds of things, and let's put it this way, your kids will be grown and gone by the time these projects get done if we don't do a bond and get them done. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, you want
There's
your
more
kids to be able
incentive
to.
to do it sooner than later.
What I'm saying is like, if you want your kids to be able to walk these trails and go from A to B and such like this, if we don't do this, they will be gone by the time we even get started on it. So, I mean, that's a reality. It's
Were there
the amount of
any other additions or changes? Jared, is this the last time we're gonna see this document before we,
Yeah, because this will primarily be used on the website. Like this is, I mean, we wanted to incorporate some of the wording and make sure we had all the stats and everything correct, but in its like, in this format, it would primarily be used on the website as a reference.
in this format, but you're gonna dress it up and make it more graphic, and are you gonna?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, do we want to use this during the town hall? Is that one of the agenda items?
We'll have it by then, right?
You're
for
gonna,
the
you're gonna
schedule.
revise this and have it finalized back within a couple of days, I would assume?
Yeah, I just need to get with, I guess, you and finance to make sure that we have all these like specific stats updated and then correct. That's really the only thing pending. And then
Okay.
get these additional things added.
And then you're gonna take this information, and this is primarily gonna drive a lot of your advertising, flyers, features, all of that stuff, correct?
Yeah, so we took this and we started coming up with the talking points that we wanted to pull out of that, and that's what the flyer is. Now, this is in no way reflecting any kind of graphical look or anything like that. But we took from those FAQs kind of the messaging that we wanted to extract and kind of put into a flyer format. So at the top, we've got, have your say in Marvin's future. These are the 2 general obligation bonds that are on the ballot. Here's their amounts. What will you get? And so this is where, when you guys were talking earlier about specifics and stuff, I do think this is important that the more specifics we can give, I know you're wanting to have some leeway with things, but this is really where it drives people home as far as forming an opinion of getting behind a project. We do have a clause in here that the projects and amenities are subject to change based on the final design and budgets. We've discussed like including a list of specific roads that you already know that will be impacted for projects, including that as well. So where we can have details, we want to have as many of them as possible.
Okay.
We would like,
So, sorry. I wanted to, if you're finished, I wanted to summarize real fast what I've heard from the council from the documents that we see in front of us, and then we could move over to the, unless you want to do this first, move over to the page where you've got the bonds for the park and include or delete anything they want to make more generic there. So,
Tag on
okay.
this.
Yeah, so I'll do it real quick. So to summarize everything that I'm hearing from you all on the frequently asked questions, we're going to amend basically the bottom half of the first section to include that $5 million in park debt with that reflective tax increase. So we'll make all those changes. We're going to add or either change up the question that's titled, "What happens if bonds don't pass in March of 2024?" to something to the degree of, "What's the advantage of doing bonds as opposed to a year-by-year transaction?" to include quicker future residents' pay and more economies of scale. Then we're going to also add another question somewhere to the degree of, "What happens if total funds requested isn't exactly needed?" And you'll answer that question. And then the last question is, "What happens in 20 years?" Now, obviously, you're going to wordsmith all those questions, but those are some of the things that they want to see in terms of what this frequently asked questions page looks like. Aside from that, you guys are good with those 2 pages, correct?
Yeah, I do want to go back to, as far as explaining it and using the words, maybe dumbing it down a little bit. I always like referencing, okay? So if I look at this page, how this will impact my taxes, $1 million tax value. Most average home, I think, in Marvin is around $750. But let's say for giggles, it's $1 million. And we're looking at both tax increases, and I just did some quick math here, of both taxes increases, so $80 added monthly is less than a cup of coffee a day.
So you can add some visuals on that.
Stuff like that.
and we have that on the flyer.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You'll make that more visually pleasing so that you can literally look at a table and say, all right, this equates to 4 cups of coffee. Can you do something like that?
Or, yeah, whatever you want to use is in the analysis. I mean, when you look at it, per day, it's, and I think we really got to focus on what are you getting for the money and making it worth their while.
Yeah, and I think that's probably his next page, but in terms of what you're seeing here, you guys are good with that?
Yeah.
And this is really this is really the FAQ, like,
Yeah.
this is really the nuts and bolts of it. We're gonna make all that other advertisements and brochures and stuff pretty with the graphics and the short blurbs so that, yeah, okay.
But based off of these facts and
Perfect.
messaging.
Yep, got it.
We've got these
And I
written
think,
down.
Jared, overall, some of the message I'm hearing is just reduce the paragraph answers and make it more bullet pointed, or maybe just make more questions with shorter answers.
Yes.
So if you want to move over to the, have a say in Marvin's future, vote on, yeah, that, they can go over that one in detail. And I assume this is kind of where you're going to get most of the amenities that you're going to discuss and put in the features of the flyer.
Correct. So, so taking those FAQs, and that's why we really start with that and try to make sure we nail that down, because that's going to guide us for everything else. So here we were talking about, so this would be an actual graphical flyer, just a front and back sheet that you guys would be able to use, hand out at all your sessions, and anytime, somebody was going to be speaking about this, you'll have plenty full of these. But we do want to talk about, what will you get? So from your citizens' perspective, what are they getting out of these bonds? So this is where we want to talk about specifics. So if there's anything else that can be nailed down or decisions that you have to make, then that would be helpful. We would like to include a rendering, the preliminary rendering of the park project, and an example of a band shell, something like that. And we have some other photos that were part of the park's master plan and that we would include as part of this, or some graphical elements. And then on the back of it, we have kind of breaking it down, that, like you guys were talking about. So we're, and we can get some examples of, a copy or something, but we basically break it down into categories. So $500,000 value, $1 million value of here's what the tax impact is in 2025 and then in 2028, and how much that's adding all the way, annually, and then all the way down to monthly. But yeah, we can definitely add in some more real world examples there of a copy kind of thing. And then here is where we would want to highlight some of the road projects for the transportation portion of the bond. I'm having my guys work on a graphical map of the village that we can use to highlight the existing greenways versus the proposed greenways as part of the projects. And we've got some photos from Austin that they have of your existing greenways, and some road photos to be able to use those in this, to dress it up a little bit.
At what point are we able to add, like if we do a nice little flyer, at what point are we able to possibly add additional information to it as we're coming into additional information?
The flyer is actually projected to be set and finalized 10/25.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to vote on March 5th. There's really not any time.
Well, I'm just thinking, okay.
I would assume one of the
But
things.
if we,
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, we're probably, I know we have one round to print like an initial run, and then we have like a second run of these after the public hearing. So the first run, we have a little bit earlier, but the second run, we're not gonna print until after the public hearing. So I think we have that scheduled to run, or scheduled to go to print in December. So the intention of that is if there's stuff that comes up from the public hearing, or we need to clarify or reword something to make it more useful or explained better. So we do have that flexibility in December to already built in to make some adjustments.
When's the public hearing? Where is that? Can you pull that calendar back up?
It's on 12/12.
December? Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we can, that's smart. Sounds like you guys have probably done this before. After the public hearing, we've got to change some stuff. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so really, as we're getting additional information, we can add to it. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also why we have the bond, like the little microsite that we're gonna be putting together. So, I mean, that can be updated at any point in time, you know,
But
with
Jared,
the most accurate information.
just so we know, because, you know, we have a contract with you where you're only to do a number of reiterations, what would be your deadline for us to get you any additional information, just so we're aware?
It would really be after that public hearing, so
Okay.
that, you know, the.
The
sometime that
12/12.
week, really, I mean, yeah.
Okay. So that gives y'all some time to play with.
I mean, I like what's on here so far. I don't know that there's a lot to add to it. I think you've probably hit on most of the things minus the, you know, total number of miles. And I feel like we're doing way more than 5 greenways, because some of these are long. He is so loud.
Do y'all want to add any bullet points for future land acquisition for Parks and Recreation programs or services?
What?
Do y'all want to add additional bullet point for future land acquisition for Parks and Recreation services or programs?
Can we wait until the second run?
Yeah.
I feel like we'll have more information by then,
Okay.
as we're traveling down some of these roads.
And the only last comment I'll make is when we do comparisons and you had that information about what Monroe is paying, what Waxhaw is paying, we're still way, way below what the rate in Waxhaw would be when you, for the next 20 years.
Way.
But we're not, I mean, we're right around where Weddington is, which makes sense. But yeah, we're gonna get all these improvements, and I can tell you, in going to WUMA meetings, a lot of these municipalities are not thinking at all like this. You know, they're just trying to exist with what they have and not, you know, and it's unfortunate because I think there's so much value into this, and quite frankly, I think there's gonna be more reason to be a part of this town than other towns. And when you look at the tax rate, because if you add Waxhaw taxes to Union County taxes, you might as well live in Mecklenburg County, if you do the math.
If you guys are ready to move on to the logo section of Jared's presentation,
Are you ready for us to move on to the logo section of
I'm gonna
Jared's
dismiss Jazzo, if you guys are good with that.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Logos, let's look at the logos. I like the logos.
All right,
Can we
so
have all
had,
the logos?
There are 4 options presented.
Can I have all of them?
You-
I like number 4.
Did you say, can you have all of them?
Yes, I did say, can I have all of them?
No.
Why not? Whoa, whoa, whoa. He doesn't realize that you can't say no to me, right?
Good
thing-
job.
It's a good
Well
thing he's
played.
not here.
You're far enough away, you're not getting kicked.
Yeah, you think
So
he's
we
joking.
have 4 options here for you. What we're trying to convey here, so the first 2 options we have are kind of, we're looking to convey an emotion from the perspective of subtly that we're talking about roads, and then we don't want to get too caught up on the actuality of it, but not that this is a greenway, but this is, you know, showing recreation, that is showing green space, that sort of thing. So we're representing, you know, the entire process. So, and then we're incorporating a tree. We do want to be careful that we're not making this too much like your new logo because, you know, just from the aesthetic of the shape and size and, you know, typeset and stuff, we don't want people to be confused and see this logo and then not recognize this as bond related or projects. I will say that many of the projects that we've done bond referendum wise over, you know, the past couple years, they end up taking the logos and this kind of stuff, and so instead of it being, you know, 2024 bond referendum, they would turn this into like just a bond referendum, Village of Marvin, and develop it on out through the project. So it's something that's kind of stamping the projects as they're going on, you know, years into the projects. So something to consider long-term, but this one is really just focusing on, having that subtle transportation, subtle recreation. Same thing here, we were trying to go completely different, so there's no confusion with your current logo or anything. So having more of a medallion kind of seal with that. And then the second two are kind of going in a different direction, and we were trying to pull out a more literal, having a representation of each bond. So the icon on the left is representative of the transportation bond. So we're talking about roads, greenways, those sort of things. And then the icon on the right is more literally representing, green space, recreation activities, those sort of things. So with that, these little scenes, and then we have a second one that we incorporated like a lady walking a dog. I do feel like the people element in these are important, even though they're subtle. And you're also looking at these where they're massive and they're going to be much smaller in most circumstances that they'll be used.
Anybody?
I like
do.
number two.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Nope, I like number two.
My personal feeling is that the last one really conveys the, everything that we're doing. You look at that and say, this is what it's all about. And I really like that one. But the second one, that is almost iconic, that I can see like a movement behind this. In other words, I picture people with buttons that this can be made out of. That it's like a cause. It's sort of like this is the salvation. This is like this. I can see that being just iconic and lasting. In other words, this is a 20-year commitment. This is a mission, and that's what that says to me. So that's my input.
So essentially, you got to where she was in about a minute of
Yeah.
dialogue.
Number two.
All right.
Number two, that's my
Wayne,
vote.
what do you like?
Number two.
2?
Jamie likes 4. Jamie's a 4.
Bob?
Well, I like two.
2.
You don't get a vote.
I don't get a vote, but Jamie, if I was voting, I'd be voting with you, but we'd still be outvoted.
Well,
I do like it. It's very classy.
It's a movement. Are you looking at that and saying, if I'm gonna go, 20 years, it's a movement?
Well, and the other
I
thing
love it.
is,
I love it, Bob
He's gonna be
Marino.
in charge of the button campaign.
I am in
Yeah,
charge
there
of
you
the
go.
button. We're gonna have
But this-
clothing. We got the new shirts will be all made.
well, the other thing is, as he was saying, as we move forward with these projects, this is a beautiful seal to symbolize that was the project that your bond money paid for as it's
Yeah.
being done. And this is just like this very official looking, very nice.
Hey, and you could actually put that on a simple sign that when you're starting a project of the past.
Yes.
this is 20
Yes,
years.
Listen to
yes.
Bob. Listen to Bob.
I was thinking, this is
So
your
excited.
bond at work.
Okay, so
Exactly.
2, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
I
honey.
will share, like, in the city of Concord right now, they're,
Hold on, Jared's trying to talk. Shush it. Go ahead, Jared.
I was just gonna share with you guys, in the city of Concord, so they passed their parks bond last year, and, we've started using, like, we just put up this week, their, park closings for some of the parks that are being completely refurbished. And we put up big, huge park closing signs, and they have their, like, logo from the bond referendum, like, incorporated into all those park closing signs, and they're kind of like marking everything, so it looks really nice. And they're using that as the whole campaign for the projects. Cool. Exactly what you were speaking about.
I think that's awesome.
We just need to vote.
No, I think we're just,
We're good.
do you want to vote on this, Austin? Are you good with, this is the one we like? Okay, everybody's consenting. Jamie said he was fine with it.
Maybe we could
Before-
put a bunch of bicycles on the highway, put a bunch of cars backed up.
That's why I didn't like the bottom one. I'd prefer to not have people getting hurt on the roads, and
Before,
ours are.
before you all move on, I know Andy Walsh maybe wanted to make a couple of comments, and I'm not sure if he's still there, it's still warranted, but
Hi, everyone. No real major comments other than, and Jared, thanks for your comments. Sounds like y'all are certainly thinking about these materials as educational materials for your constituents and for members of the community. That certainly is in line with legislative intent and rules of general statutes. We'll take a review at those final kind of drafts that Jared provides and just making sure that everything stays within kind of that educational realm.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Good?
Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Moving right along. Oh, sorry. There you go.
Kim apparently is taking over.
Sorry.
She's impressed by how
Thanks,
nice your
guys.
desk is.
Yeah. Jared, your desk is very clean behind you, if that's actually your desk.
You should see the rest of my office.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Moving on, reports and updates, managers report.
I can't believe you told me no.
Managers report.
okay, I've got a couple of things. So, as you have seen in your agenda packets, we did actually receive the Phase 1 letter from DOT that we were requesting. Just to refresh your memory, we have a couple of roads, and this is all part of the GEO bond. We have a couple of roads that are problematic in terms of DOT fully relinquishing those roads, and they're primarily roads that have roundabouts attached to them. So all other roads are kind of quick, easy fixes. They're residential roads. Those are what we are considering Phase 1. That'll be the first phase of the roads that we took over as a part of the GEO bond. If we can't get a solution on these roundabout roads, we have received the letter from DOT that they are willing to relinquish those roads, and all of them are itemized out in your agenda from beginning to end. And we're continuing to work on the Phase 2 letter with addressing some of the things that DOT wants us to get addressed. Just want to let you know that we did receive that. We will be submitting that as a part of our LGC application, so they're aware that we have cooperation from NCDOT on the majority of the roads that we're trying to obtain. Any questions on any of that?
No, but just a statement. I am still very, I don't know, confused isn't even the right word, with DOT regarding the 1,500 feet that they need to go past the roundabout. So I have asked Christina to schedule an appointment and schedule a meeting with DOT and have DOT come in here and sit down and go over this with us. Because the reason they told us that, because they want full functionality of the roundabout in case they ever have to expand it. Well, there's zero plans to expand that roundabout per DOT, which is not anything that we were ever told. We were always told it was slated for a two-lane roundabout on both of these roundabouts here. So I have asked Christina to get DOT in here so we can sit down and really hash this out, because I think this is a bunch of
Yeah, and
baloney.
they didn't specifically say for future expansion. They said functionality, so that could include
Functionality, but I mean, how else is it not functioning?
if something damages on it. But I have requested them to come out.
So anyway, I'm just letting you guys know, because I think it's a bunch of,
Another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about real fast, I sent you all an email. We've received a request from Communications to send out a flyer for a nonprofit group. We've also received a letter from somewhere, let's see, a mayor from Wesley Chapel requesting to send information out via our Facebook. So we just really want to have a discussion from you all as to what it is you're looking for in terms of communication, because once we open that door for outside entities, we're really kind of opening that door for other entities to request the same.
I feel like we've had this conversation multiple times, and we have just said we're not going to advertise for other people that don't have any affiliation with the village.
Well, I brought this up at the last WUMA meeting, and I remember reading an article that, for instance, Wesley Chapel had a celebration of whatever when they were formed or whatever it was, and they didn't have great attendance. They said it was super hot and stuff. And I suggested in that meeting is maybe we could have some simple blurb. Hey, just neighboring town having this, you know, and kind of helping out, because quite frankly, again, when I walk over at Efer Park and I introduce myself and ask where they're from, very few times am I getting, they're from Marvin. Even at the Marvin Day, the people who were leaving late at night and stuff lived uptown. They just followed the band that they were at and stuff. So it's just kind of I think maybe where that came from was me suggesting, I did comment, I heard you commented about you were disappointed in the amount of people, but if we could just put something out, very simple, that, hey, FYI, not necessarily specifically, you know.
But that's not promoting a business or a nonprofit or, I mean, it's another municipality that's just having a celebration. I'm fine with that. What I don't want to get into is trying to support this nonprofit over this nonprofit.
Agree
or
100%.
this company over this company. If, you know, Wesley Chapel's having a fair and they want people to come out and celebrate it, fine, whatever. If, you know, Mineral Springs is having a Happy Mineral Springs Day, that's fine.
But
I'm
I wouldn't
fine
go
with-
so far as like in, you know, hey, if you want to support them, I'm just saying just a notification that it's happening on this
Okay.
date at this time.
So no nonprofits, but you're willing to share via Facebook or Nextdoor, on our social media platforms, any
If
municipal,
they present it to us, I mean.
municipal,
Yeah, because
Okay.
it was like, you know, hey, I want to see as many people come out, and sometimes people get their news from
Okay.
different sources.
well, so,
and it's
so just so we're clear, only on social media will we share the events. We won't actually put the municipal post in our weekly newsletters. Okay.
No, I need Marvin Village residents figuring out what's going on in Marvin.
So are you clear?
I am, the burden will be on whoever's supplying the information to get it to us in a timely manner.
That's fine.
so
Well,
that we
that's not,
can
that,
publish
then if they don't get it to us, then they don't get it to us. It's not our problem. If they want us to have it and they want us to help promote their municipal event, then they'll get it to us in a timely fashion.
I will hold them to the same expectations that I hold everyone else to.
Perfect.
Okay. I have one more item, but I can do it in roads, so that's all I have for,
Do what?
I can do it in roads report.
Oh, okay. All right. Moving on, planners report. Hunter.
Only got one thing to update you guys on, / looking for a little feedback on how you would like staff to proceed regarding the trail connection between Tullamore and Amber Meadows. Trying to get a map pulled up here for you guys. In short, we've hit a roadblock with getting a easement from the Townsend Audrey property, as well as the second option of being through Amber Meadows. So the question is do we want to either proceed with having phase 4 and that coming to a dead end? Do we want to bring it up to the road? I mean,
I actually have trails slated in the work session, so if we can come back with this item so they can actually see some visuals
I've
as to the
got 'em.
maps.
some
Yeah.
visual- but
I would prefer you guys see them in advance, though.
that's fine. Kim just wanted me to add this.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be brought up.
Okay.
We can, we can go over it and figure it out, but why are we looking at it?
Because the Townsend Audrey, which was the original plan, has not gotten back to me at all to get an easement. So the second option was to get an easement between Amber Meadows and Tullamore on Amber Meadows property. There's roughly, it's a 25-foot preservation strip, but basically between their edge of property and retaining wall that's in their common open space is 10 feet, and we were requesting a 10-feet easement on the side of their property. And the Amber Meadows HOA took it to the board, and they did not grant us a new easement location.
Amber Meadows did not grant us the easement that we requested.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, all right.
That's all I have.
All right. Moving on.
We'll revisit this at the work session, because he'll put some maps in, we can revisit where we want to relocate or what we want to entertain from here.
Okay, yeah, I would like to look at it. I'd like to see what our options are, but I will say that that is very, very disappointing that Amber Meadows is not willing to work with us on this easement after everything that we just did for them. we basically, with their maintenance plan and landscape plan, we basically gave them, not basically, we gave them everything they wanted plus some, and we're asking for an easement, and they're not willing to work with the village. That is extremely disappointing.
I would agree. Next up, we have roads report.
Okay, so if you recall, at the last council meeting, you all discussed some road names for the heritage development. We have submitted the names that were discussed, and some were approved and some were not. The approved ones were Banks, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right, but Detweiler, and Enoch. Those were the three that were approved. The disapproved were Ross, Crane, and Roan. Subsequently, there's been a little discussion about the Odell property, and some other potential road names have come to recommendation of Odell Lane, Odell Farm Lane, Phil Odell Lane. So I do need one more.
I also, I submitted 3 more names, and those got approved too, so there was 6.
Okay.
And they were, Azell. Yeah,
I'm sorry, did you say Azell?
yes, Potts, and another, one of the other original settlers here in the Marvin area. I can't remember the family name at
What
the
was
current
the
moment.
Cots?
Potts, I think, Potts.
So we need 4 of those selected so they can present those into the site plan. So if you want to use one of the Odell ones that I just mentioned, that's a possibility, or any of the 6 that we've just mentioned as approved.
Yeah, and over the weekend, I reached out to Russ Odell and stuff, and we talked a little bit about that, and just realizing, as we were looking at names, the property that they've owned for 50 years, when we were discussing names, that name never came up, Odell. So we all need, I guess, history lessons on the town and where we live and the transition. He did send me information of McIlwain back in the 30s that owned it. Then they bought it in the 60s. It was actually owned for a short period of time by the Billy Graham's family, or a brother or something, for a short time. So, but just recognizing, because if you think about, even though they've had it the last 50 years, I think their willingness to give up a full or donate land so a 4th roundabout could go in, I think is something unique, because the deal wasn't done and they donated that land so they could have it. And I'm sure, or I would hope, that Meadowlark would recognize them in some things, but we always do things, we try to do things in the village for the greater good. And going from a 3-lane to a 4-lane, I think, is a big deal, especially if you lived in that neighborhood. So it was a miss on our part. I apologized on behalf of the village. I know some thought it wasn't necessarily our responsibility to address that, but I just felt that, having owned that property and with what's going on in the transition to the, the changes that we have made, a big part of that was, adding that 4th lane and that roundabout, So he did specifically say, just for confusion matters, he didn't, if we were going to go with something, one of his names, to drop the asterisk or apostrophe on Odell. So that's why I think he sent Odell Farm Lane, Odell Lane. I think one of those 2 are probably more appealing than any of the others.
Okay, I mean, I'm good with that, and of course, we appreciate the donation and the willingness to work with the village. And yes, I agree, Joe, that was a miss on our part, so absolutely put those names up and let the developer decide, what they'd like to do, so I'm good with that.
Does that help you? You're good with all the things that you had?
Any particular one, or you just?
Nope, just give them all to them.
And
Let
then,
them decide.
okay. Do you guys want to have any input on to the other ones?
Nope,
As to
let
for
them
sure?
decide.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay? That's all you had?
Yes.
All right. Next up, deputies report.
No deputies.
No deputy
Got the
today.
reports. We're good. Moving on.
Andy, any issues with the speeding?
Nope, everything looks good. Speeds are slowing down,
They are.
because nobody can come down this road.
You know, well, I'll make that point later. We'll
It's
talk
been so
about that.
quiet behind my house.
You know
It's
what?
so nice.
I'm
Oh.
actually surprised with the closing of that road, how little it has really affected. I don't know about you coming out of Firethorn, or you coming out where it hasn't.
Well, no, because the road's closed. There's nobody on it.
No, what I'm saying is they're finding other ways, and yes, there was a little backup coming here. It is what it is.
Again, I will make it that it's no longer a roundabout to me, it's Waxhaw's amenity.
So no update when they're officially opening up that roundabout?
We should have an update today, Christina.
Yeah, the last I talked to him was last week, and it was still projected to be mid-October. So, I mean, as far as I know, it's still projected to open. Yeah, but I'll send him another email and ask.
Mid-October is typically Halloween.
They didn't say what year.
Yeah, no rush.
what I
Tell
can
them to
tell
take
you
their,
is-
we want it done right. Tell them to take their
I
time.
was down there the other day, on Monday, and they are funneling Meadowlark out through the roundabout at this point because,
Well, they're refinishing
because
the
they've,
last
Yeah,
piece.
they have to,
yes,
yeah.
because
Which
they had to
is
close
Glenn's
down
place.
the original driveway to make
Which
the
it's only for
project.
Meadowlark.
It's only for Meadowlark, it is only for those people to get in and out of that neighborhood. But they are very close to, I would say that if just my best educated guess, I would say they're on target if they go over a day or two. But we've had good weather, we got good weather coming, so I think they're gonna stay on target.
And it looks really nice.
It does look
It's
very nice.
Completely different. So, enjoy it when it does open up. PRNG board report.
The planning board?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
you know what, I
No.
have that on.
We,
You said I could change the order of these, but go ahead.
We're cranking along with the Marvin Development Ordinance, and we went through some more pages, and looks like we're going to be coming to an end pretty soon. But we've got a meeting this month that will, I think, we might be finishing up, not sure. But it went well.
It's anticipated that the last couple of sections that we'll probably have a full, complete draft of the ordinance done in December, January. And your guys' binders are ready, if you guys want them.
Well, the questions were gonna be to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Glad you're not gonna
Nobody
mess
has any
this.
questions.
All right, moving on, PRNG board report.
Okay, so we talked about planting requirements for new developments. Hunter's going to work with planning board and during the UDO rewrite of trying to incorporate more native plants in the planting requirements for new developments. It's not going to be in effect for anything that is currently going on. It'll be from here on out, but really trying to focus on some native plants. And then we kind of started talking about some ideas for the heritage at Marvin Park. So we're tossing around some things there, and we'll be bringing back some ideas to you guys in the future. So, that's it. Any questions? Nope, I'm good. I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I have one,
Oh,
sorry.
really?
I do, actually.
Oh, here we go.
One of the recommendations at the Parks Recreation Greenways meeting this past go-round was to mulch the pocket park, from my understanding. So I got Davey to get a quote, and it came in, that's not something that we budgeted, obviously. The quote that he got was pretty astronomical, so I wanted to give him the microphone to turn it over for a second and just explain how much, because we would have to do a budget amendment from fund balance to fund this project. So just wanted y'all to be aware.
It was on.
It was on. I'm sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. So based on the discussion at the committee meeting, staff went out and did some measurements to get a quote for the mulch itself. So approximately The park itself, Pocket Park's 160 feet by 160 feet. And so 1 cubic yard of mulch covers 75 square feet. You want to put it in at about a 4-inch thickness so that it's going to settle, have some settling to it. So we basically need 341 cubic yards of mulch, which comes back at a cost of about just shy of $7,800.
They want to mulch the entire park?
Yeah. They don't want grass, because then you're gonna have to mow it. They want mulch, and then we're gonna plant plants in the mulch. I'm tired, I am legitimately tired of talking about this stupid pocket park. At this point, we could sell it to somebody who wants to do an out parcel there. I'm not even kidding. I am so tired of talking about this park. This is at Publix. I'm over talking about it, because it's either, we've tried to plant stuff there, but we don't have water. The well's gonna cost us $10,000 to $15,000, so we're not gonna do that. So then it's like, okay, well, we don't wanna put grass in because you've gotta water grass, and then you've gotta go out and maintain the grass. So then their option was to mulch it and then plant plants within the mulch that are now, not right now, but coming up very soon, that will be able to then be, you know, with the rain and the stuff in the wintertime that we normally get, kind of get established, and then we won't have to water it with a well.
So,
Stop looking at me. I'm not the plant person. This is what they said, but I'm done talking about it.
no, but to your point about, we're so frustrated, we've tried so many things, and why is it not working right now? It's just not getting water, and the trees aren't growing, or what's the reason for that we're going the mulch? Because they just don't want to mow it?
Joe. It's because we can't get grass to grow, we
I
can't
know,
get
you
trees to
I
grow
get
because we
it.
don't have any
Okay,
water.
So, because they won't give us water, so no, let's logically look at this. So then, do you put it up for sale? And if you do put it up for sale, they lose the access that we just created for them to get to Publix, do they not?
They're not gonna get, why would they get rid of that sidewalk there?
No, I'm saying if you're, to your point, if we can't do anything to make it work, we can't get a well to work, all those things that we're trying to do, and you want to put it up for sale, that's fine. Whatever it becomes, we zone it to whatever to be a part of the Publix. But then, how much of that, or what part of that road, isn't there an access to that neighborhood there?
No,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
sidewalk.
a sidewalk for
That runs in
communication
front
of
of it. There's no
handicap, but you
road.
could always put something in the deed to restrict, to make sure that's
That
covered.
stays?
Yeah, and I do know at some point Publix has expressed interest in it, the developer at least has expressed interest in it. But we were here to present the mulch findings for you all. If you want to talk about selling that, we can add that to the work session. We just want to know if you want us to do a budget amendment to fund the mulch project.
I don't want to spend $7,800 on mulch.
It
Yeah.
looks like crap over there.
Okay, but if we're seriously going to consider selling, I don't want to put any money into it until we make a decision.
I don't disagree with that, but it looks like crap over there. We've got to do something with it. So it's either,
Well, it's-
Hunter, between now and the work session, can you reach out to the developer and be like, do you guys have any interest on developing this out parcel? And are there any restrictions with having a commercial building there that close to Weddington Chase?
We also need to look at the deed restrictions for that parcel as well, which,
I'm about 99% sure it's deed restricted, but I'll double check.
It's what?
It's deed restricted because part of it was part of their approval, their conditional zoning approval. It would require a lot more work than they, like, as in, they would have to come and amend their conditional rezoning, all that stuff, which if they want to do that and we want to sell it, that's great, but it would require, it's not as easy as us just selling if it's not deed restricted, but I'm about positive it is because it was part of their approval of their conditional zoning.
But then isn't it RD to then change the restriction on it?
It's a legal one.
They gave it to the town, so they likely put a restriction. We hear about a deed this to the town, it's probably a quick claim deed, and the property shall only be used for park purposes or other related purposes. Or they could have even put in a right of first refusal. But we can check that. I'd already mentioned it to
Well,
Christina.
let's find it out for the work session, and then let's have a discussion about it, because
At that point, if the bond gets approved, you could probably dig our own well.
it's an acre, like,
But
And I'm just
what,
saying.
for $15,000, like,
For purposes of the recommendation from PRG, there's a consensus not to proceed with the mulch purchase and installation. Is that
Put it on
correct?
hold until the work session, we'll make a decision then, because we've got to make a decision about it.
Austin, if you can just add something to the PRG to update them so that we don't lose that.
Thanks, Christina, for that question, by the way.
If you can.
Who knew PR&G would be so
Put a
con?
note to update the PRG board.
All right, can we move on?
Yes, please, for the love of God.
Event planning report. Tyler, I hope you don't have anything exciting.
Trick or treat's October 27th. From 5 to 7, we're still, 5 to 7 will be the trick or treat, followed by a movie. Still looking for vendors. Need,
It's hard to hear you.
yeah, sorry. Still accepting vendors. Will for the next 10 or 12 days for trick or treat. I like whispering noise. And yeah, that's what we need vendors for. I do need council's, wanted you guys' opinion on October 26th, following the work session. We had it in the past where you guys decorated the tree.
Oh, we're gonna decorate the tree, and I'm gonna block Andy's truck in so he can't leave.
I will not decorate a Christmas tree before Halloween.
We
Sorry.
decorated it before Halloween last year.
We didn't?
Yes, we did. We did it after the work session in October. Yes, we did. We have to have it for the friendship tree, which will be here on November 1st.
Somewhere, Christmas does not start until at least after Halloween, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna block your truck in.
All right, so if everybody's cool with that, I'll send you guys a reminder email, and we'll lock that in. Cool.
A ladder. Andy's not bringing his.
November 18th, Brew and Q, still on pace, still looking for competitors. Think we got a hot lead coming in from a couple, 1 or 2. That would
I'm-
make 1 and 2.
I'm
If we-
telling you, it has got to be an individual email. It cannot
It was.
just be in the middle of the body of a giant newsletter.
We made its own.
I know, I've seen it once, though, since I made that suggestion last week.
We just got it done.
Well, I've seen it once. It should be like shoved so far in front of everybody's faces that they know it's coming. Sorry, Austin.
Doesn't Chip
More
do
emails.
barbecues?
And then December 9th, we'll have the tree lighting from 5 to 7. Santa Claus will be there, cookies will be there.
The mayor will not be there.
For, that may change,
Oh, okay.
so.
And then for Marvin Day, we got our brochures out to be printed. You guys be on the lookout. I'll email y'all when we get them, and I'll shoot everybody a text when the hard copies come in. That's all I got.
Is that all you have for Marvin Day?
Who are you asking?
Either one of you.
Oh,
Whoever wants to ask about their updates and who did not do their homework.
who didn't do their homework? No, the only report I have is that it was a very light week. That's all I got back from Mary.
Did Mary get a response from everybody? Bob's everybody. Okay, good. Jamie did. Okay, we gotta start updating Mary. We gotta get on this, y'all. Chop, chop. We gotta get our flyers. Chop, chop. Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right, moving on, coffee with council, debrief.
That was me and Barbarino. We had one gentleman from Marvin Creek come in just because he had moved here from California and he wanted to introduce himself, and we had a lovely chat for about an hour.
Wow.
That was that.
Do you volunteer for anything?
Nope,
Barbecue?
nope.
Just throwing it out there, you never know. He could be.
Oh, dear.
All right, well, thanks for being here for that. All right, moving on, consent agenda. I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have a public hearing. Let's see, public hearing for temporary use permit, application 2313103.
So moved.
You don't need a motion to open it.
Yep, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Unfinished business. Discussion of
Say it, say it, say it fast.
Privatization of Marvin Eford Park.
Well, here we go.
Seriously?
Who's got this?
Jamie. Hold on. Chaplain, do you need us to go through the three things?
He's being entertained right now.
I know, but
I was just, I mean, if it's a temporary use permit, we need to probably grant.
I moved them. We're approving them.
Okay.
I said moved them in the affirmative.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, you didn't hear it? Oh, I did it. We all in favored it.
He's not used to that.
Okay.
not used to the efficiency, but on this, it's town permit.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure before Jamie dives into the privatization.
Let the record show no one signed up to speak.
Okay. Well, it could have been one of these two out here. Okay, go, Jamie.
No, I mean, this got brought up about, how we distinguish between non-residents and residents of Marvin utilizing Eford Park. And I did read the legal thing on this.
First Amendment concerns, seriously, First Amendment to not go to a park, seriously, seriously.
Parks are considered one of the basic places for First Amendment. It is where all the first revolts took place, where all the speeches were made, and it's still protected out of history for that, and thus the judges still protect it. I know it sounds strange, but
They had their soapbox.
yeah, that is
In
where
the day.
people, and First Amendment is not supposed to be
We should
judged
put a
on if you're
soapbox in Marvin Eford.
a resident or not, but I agree, it seems strange, but it's just a very protected right, and parks are related to it.
Oh, dumb.
All right, well.
Okay, so if we can't privatize it, then we're gonna make it real expensive. Where are we with raising rates and coming back with rental rates? Yeah, where are we?
The numbers are coming back to when we do the work session.
Work session? Okay, cool. We're gonna rip it apart, so make it look good. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jill, sorry.
Kim Vandenberg, I am not in Parks and Rec staff, so please stop
But you're in
looking at me.
finance, but you're in finance, so I feel like you're helping with this. Okay.
These discussions don't involve me anymore.
Okay, Tyler, work session.
Work session.
Make them hurt.
All right, moving on. Can we move on?
Yeah, let's go. Come on, Joe.
New business. First up, consider adoption 2024 Village Council meeting schedule.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot to look at this and go over it.
Oh, someone didn't do their
I
homework.
know, I just said it.
At least you said it.
I did say it.
So this is very similar to last year. Actually, it's almost a carbon copy of last year. Same exact meeting, same convention. You got your retreat dates in here. We've already got those figured out. One overnight at Old North State.
Key is spring break.
You've got a Geo Bond specific town hall meeting on here for February, and your regular joint meetings with the planning board and PRG board.
So I would expect that you all will plan your vacations around our meetings?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, you did it too, Andrew.
Didn't you have a vacation?
Andrew.
I looked at everything. The key things for me were spring break, because I still have kids, and that's totally fine there.
Spring break for high school, college, or one that's out of college?
Well, college, college
point.
are on,
It's a
college
good
are on their
point.
own. High school is usually, you're still responsible for having a household with the kids inside. So I assume if you're gonna make plans, that was fine, because it starts, I think, March 30th, I want to say, or the 29th.
Earlier this year.
So, since it is earlier, we typically don't have a work session in April, because it's usually deeper into April. Since it's like at the very beginning, can we not have the work session in March and have the work session in April?
It is your schedule. You can do
Because
it
it's-
however you would like.
Because it's the day right before, like, spring break starts, the work session is. Not that I'm going anywhere, but if,
asking.
I am asking. I mean, if you guys don't want to, I don't care. I mean, I'm gonna be here, I'm just,
My only,
At one of your last
It is, that would be one of your last ones for Marvin Day.
Yeah, but then we don't have one literally 2 days before Marvin Day. I'd rather have one 2 days before Marvin Day than one right before everybody's going on vacation.
My only other question is, not having a work session in March, does that interfere with your budget timelines?
Huh?
No, I'll make the budget around whatever schedule they adopt.
Yeah, but the work session doesn't matter.
We move things faster now, so.
I don't care though, but we will not have a meeting right before Marvin Day. I almost think we should just have, just put in a work session in April then.
Okay, so do you want to keep March? Keep March or just
I mean, we can. I think we should absolutely put one in April.
April?
Because it's 2 days before Marvin Day, and I think we should have one then.
By 2 days before Marvin Day, if it's not done, it ain't gonna be done.
Yeah, well, okay, don't have one then, I don't care.
I mean,
See
I'm
how
just
it
saying,
works.
if it's not done 2 days before Marvin Day, it's not gonna change anything.
It's not true, because there is so much stuff that happens in those last 2 days of stuff and more stuff. I can't think of anything. I worked my butt off that Friday before Marvin Day, so I feel like we should have it.
All right, if you feel like we should have it, then we should have it.
April 25th work session, yes or no?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Are you keeping March or are you moving March to April?
Jill thinks we should keep it. I'm fine keeping it. Listen, throw it on there, and if we are only talking about Marvin Day, then we're only talking about Marvin Day.
I mean, listen, if, we can never have enough work sessions. We always have full agendas, so if, eliminating them is not necessarily the best practice.
The only
as far
reason
as
we
I'm
did it in
concerned.
April, because usually it fell right around either during spring break or right when we got back from spring break, or, so I think it's fine. Keep the one in March, add one in April, put it on the consent agenda at the work session, and we'll approve it.
You don't need, we're just going to make the change now and have you approve as amended.
Okay,
It's April, 27th.
hang on.
27th.
So give me 1 second, I'm going to add that into.
Can
the
I change another day?
Hold on 1 second, I'm almost there.
Perfect. Instead of June 11th, can we make it June 10th? Well, that's fine. Would you have been here on the 11th? Okay, well then.
Anyone have any issue with moving it to Monday, June 11th?
Not
June
right
10th.
now.
June 10th.
Yeah, as of right now, no. But that's like 8 months from now, so a lot can change.
See, I already know my schedule in June. I will not be here for the 27th work session.
So April 25th, June 10th, any other changes?
Hang on, still going through it. I told you, I forgot to do this before.
So we are having one, April 25th.
Yep.
Work session? Oh, you'll send it out, right?
Ooh, the work session's
You'll
gonna
send
be
it
on Halloween. Ooh,
Once
are
you
excited?
guys adopt this, you'll get meeting invites from me later on. Calendars.
Okay,
If we could move, that's, no, in the
Halloween
day.
day.
Work session.
That whole day, I am
Which
just
meeting are we
swamped
on now?
that day. I am. That's
The-
when I put out all my
he-
stuff.
I mean, he says this every year, like last year,
The
there was
only
nothing
reason last
outside.
year is I was on a hunting trip, so, but every year, that whole day, I am at my house putting up, because none of them can last the overnight moisture and it, so I'll probably be,
Which day are you talking about?
just one day earlier.
One day a year, that's all I get. He said this like literally
Look,
the
you
first
got,
year
you
I
got
was
your
on it.
June 10th moved, I'm just
I'll
saying
move
move
it.
it
You
to
want it-
Wednesday.
Perfect, move it to Wednesday. I'm great with Wednesday.
Just so I can
Wednesday.
accommodate the kids.
Wednesday looks fantastic for me.
It's for the
I could
kids.
care less.
Perfect, put it on Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 30th.
Thank you.
Yes, we're talking about Halloween.
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, yeah, it's the whole year,
We do the whole year.
the whole year. And they're planned out for the whole year, because they're
No, that
such
would be
busy
chaos.
people.
Is the rest of the schedule good?
As long as one of the two of you is at each meeting, who cares?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I guarantee. I'll
Going
be
once.
here. November, so I'm on 24.
They're still looking at their calendars.
Well, I'm looking at WUMA And WUMA's going to be on the 24th, so.
Okay. So you're covered for your Halloween decorating?
Listen, I'm committed to it.
Okay, and just,
That was just.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the 2024 Village Council meeting schedule as amended.
All's in favor?
aye.
Motion passes.
I mean, Jamie's going to have some trips.
Okay.
Okay, you guys will be receiving calendar invites from me, at some point down the line, probably in a month or so, once we get close to.
I'm going to need that on my calendar, I'm just kidding.
Don't be planning vacations right now.
All right, open topics.
Nope, don't have any. Next. Next.
I've always got something
No,
to
no,
talk
no,
about.
don't. Poor Hunter's trying to get out of here to go watch the game. He's 17 minutes over start time.
Action items, moving on.
All right, don't actually have that much. Hunter's gonna reach out to the developer of Publix, see if they're interested, and check the deed restrictions. We have all of your revisions for the FAQs, the flyer, we have your logo selection. We're gonna update the PRG board on the Pocket Park, and we'll reconsider their recommendations at the work session. There will be more emails on Brew and Q. I have not had a chance to do the ones for Moms on the Move yet, still working on that. And I have your changes for the meeting schedule. You guys will get calendar invites from me in the coming weeks. That's all I got.
Okay. Mayor Pro Kim.
All right, you ready?
Hold on,
Awesome.
I'm opening it right now.
I don't know how you just don't have
You're
it
moving
sitting
faster than my computer can move.
open. All right.
All right, I'm good.
Joe, where are we with Representative Brody?
I presented it to, you got to get the buy-in first.
Yep.
And we presented it at WUMA, and I think they were very open to it. And Mayor Craig Horn, since he's been at the legislative level, he said that he suggested that we go circle back to Brody and just have them, there's people that write bills for this, and then it just kind of creates itself.
Get a
But
draft.
A draft is what they
For
were
us to
talking to.
review.
So that's what I will be pursuing with Brody.
Okay, awesome. Winmore Bond.
I gave them a deadline of the 27th to have it signed. We're like close, like literally we have it. There was one thing that their attorney wanted that the HOA really didn't care. I had a call with the HOA president before this meeting. Hopefully I'll have it signed this week.
Okay, cool. Wi-Fi at the park, Christina?
It'll be at the work session.
Okay. Have we executed the agreement with East Coast Pyro Shows?
We have.
Oh, perfect. Check. Can we change Moms on the Move to Marvin on the Move? Where'd Tyler go? Oh. Every time I see it, I'm like, people are just not gonna wanna get out and walk.
So what are we changing it to?
I would like change it to Marvin on the Move and just instead of Moms on the Move, because I feel like that's very not, we wanna
not
be
inclusive.
inclusive. We don't wanna be I mean,
Still moms.
well, it could be, but it could be some
No, I'm
dads.
just saying the acronym is still mom.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, but it's not just for moms.
I know, but the acronym is still mom.
It is.
Mankind on the move.
All right, Tyler, can we change Moms on the Move to Marvin on the Move? Okay. Like, let's tell our social media person, because it's still got moms everywhere. Banners for Moms on the Move in Town Hall, Austin?
I have, the banners for the town hall meeting have been ordered. I have not had a chance to get to Moms on the Move yet.
Okay, I love this guy here that's in our foyer.
You can thank Polemy, she did a very good job.
Yes, she did a great job. We have one at the park that
What?
looks the same. Okay. The flyer thingy out here in the foyer.
An 8.5 by 11 flyer too, so if anybody wants to take some, they're on Mary's desk. Take them,
Okay.
leave them around town, scatter them wherever you will.
Thank you, Jill. Mr. Broom, have we purchased the radar signs? That is in progress. Okay. And we're going to talk about where we're putting them before we put them somewhere.
Yes, I should have some options for locations at the workshop.
Okay, perfect. Let's make sure that we've got stuff on the other, some options on the other side of Marvin. You can't talk. Stop. On the other side of Marvin, that we have some options over there too. Okay. Christina asked the school board to help fund the radar sign. They said no, so we can mark that off of our list.
I'll check that off.
See, Ms. Carilli and Mr. Honeycutt are working on differentiated timelines and pricing, so that's why I kept looking at both of you.
I don't know why he put my name on that.
It'll be at the work session.
Well, that's fine, but Jill said, why are you looking at me? I mean, I don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah,
On my
yeah.
list, you do.
We'll get it straight.
You're on our list.
Okay, Austin,
What am I doing?
just take Jill's name off of that and just leave Tyler on there. Council will notify staff on their progress of Marvin Day sponsorships by Thursday, October 5th. I don't feel like everybody actually did that, so let's make sure that we're giving Mary her weekly updates, please. And then roundabout, landscape and lighting.
Both have been approved, so we are ready to proceed with both of those projects when the opening takes place.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Want me to check that off the list?
No, let's just see how it looks at the end of the month, just for fun. Thanks.
Is that it?
Yep.
All right. Council comments. Andrew, what you got?
I have nothing.
Nothing. All right. Bob?
Pass.
Pass, go ahead. Wayne?
Wait, like pass, you want us to come back to you, or you don't have anything to say?
Yeah, what's that mean? Go ahead.
I want to thank the council, the staff, because of their work makes it easier on us. And as of tonight, that's only one.
Okay.
Good job, Wayne.
This is one I haven't done in a long time, or I don't know that anyone's done, and I'm gonna do this out of respect for Hunter. And I know he's ready to race out of here. He's in a sprinter's position right now, and I don't blame him, because I would be too. We always thank staff, and because they do an amazing job. They absolutely do an amazing job. And they always exceed our expectations. But there's one person who seems to never kind of get that comment, and that's Chaplain.
Chaplain's like, me?
To keep us,
You know, that's gonna cost you money. That's gonna cost us money.
No, I'm just saying. He keeps us on the straight and narrow, he keeps us honest, and he provides a lot of input to what, the decisions that we make, and I just want to thank you for what you do. I know we always thank council, we thank staff, but I think sometimes you're that one that's there, so thanks for what you do. And for that, I'll put Hunter back in the sprinter position.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. That's it.
Very nice, thank you. I'd also like to thank staff, also law enforcement, as always. One thing, looking out, a couple weeks, gotta go vote. This is the time, because this, you know, you see what happens when, voting is important, so bottom line, especially on the off seasons too, so hopefully we won't be together until after that. And again, another special thanks to the Odell family. I had a very nice conversation with Russ and about a little bit of the history, and it's always good to learn about the background of stuff and, again, oversight, but thank him for his comments and responding back to me. Very excited about the roundabout opening hopefully next week. And last comment is just, it's not on a downer, but what's happening overseas in Israel is just unfortunate, and just prayers for all those who are in the middle of all that suffering, and hope that comes to an end sooner than later. So, and with that, I'll need a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks all.
Wayne's trying to second everything. We don't second anything. Oh, Wayne. Hurry, hurry, hurry. What's the score?
What's the game?
score? Hurry.
What game?
Down 7.
What game?
Oh,
What
no.
game? What game?
Look at them. They color coordinated.
Yeah, go get something to eat.
They called each other and said, should we win